And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, is a man who likes to swag when he surfs. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Number one, I've never been surfing. Can't say that would be my move, even if I did. We've had what, 4 days without the Tigers here? You guys forgotten about baseball yet? I mean, the All-Star game was pretty entertaining if you were tuned in, but yeah, things about to kind of reset and get going here. Do we want to revisit the All-Star game for a little bit?
Well, there were a lot of Tigers highlights, right? Like they
Hey,
MVPs,
hmm.
any All-Star MVPs, any
Is the
hits?
entire second half threatened due to the lack of performance in the All-Star game? This thing doesn't count. I don't think this matters at all. Tarek Skubal gave up two soft hit singles and then a Kettle Marte double. It'll be fine. He was Skubal, for the record, is always pretty chill on start day, but he walked in the clubhouse and he looked at me and a couple others. He's like, "Hey, you guys want to talk?" And I was like, "You're starting today." Yeah, he was like, "I know it's the All-Star game, but I feel morally wrong, and you're not supposed to talk to the starting pitcher from a media perspective on the day he starts." He's like, "Oh, I forgot I was pitching today." So that gives you a little insight into like where he was at. And that's not to say he wasn't like taking it seriously or whatever. It's just it was the
Just
All-Star
enjoying.
game, you know.
Yeah.
Tarek was having a good time, showed out on the red carpet, whatever. He seemed to kind of revel in it. But no one else got any hits. Casey Mize gave up a homer to Corbin Carroll. Whatever. I think it is what it is. I think it was still good to have the Tigers well represented there. I think the guys showed out. They had some, Javi, Glaber had really good times with their families. I don't know. I just don't have any grand takeaways. I was there. I was in Atlanta. I thought it was a great showing for the game. We can talk about the home run derby if you want. But from a Tigers perspective, I guess it would have been nice to have like a big Tigers moment on that stage, right? Maybe
Sure.
we'll get one of
Yeah.
those come October. Still don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like it. And by the way, I'm in a hotel room in New York, so that's why my voice is a little bit more tempered. I don't want to get a complaint on me, but like it's one of those things
A
that
few
would have.
people out there are going to be like, Kieran should be in the New York hotel all the time. Looking
Is
at you, Dr. Robin Lund.
facts. So like the it would have been a nice kind of check mark in the storybook part of the season, but at the same time, there are several people. It's like, name me your favorite highlight from the Dodgers All-Star game in 2020, or I know there wasn't one in 2020, but you see what I'm saying? Like it's like
A
it
year
does
without an All-Star game.
the year All-Star game, but like what was, or even like what was Corbin Carroll's moment in 2023? You know what I mean? What was Corey Seager's in
Uh,
2023? I don't know.
couldn't tell
So like, yeah, it would have been cool. Oh yeah, it would have been really cool. But I also think like the spotlight itself was the moment. Tarek Skubal mic'd up, shockingly saying a bad word on live
you. Who
television.
would have thought that might happen?
and also being, all of them being great ambassadors for the franchise, and it being a staple of everything that they've accomplished to this point this season. And we're going to do this a little bit more recappy. We haven't really done like a quote unquote first half ish episode yet, so that will be kind of the theme of everything. But I did want to remind everybody, we at Foul Territory, we have a great giveaway going on right now at Chat BCC group chat. If you think you know ball, there's a trivia contest, and by the looks of it, people take this very seriously, as I do at trivia, as Cody knows. Prove it with our authentic shot at winning an authentic MLB jersey of your choice, worth up to $400. Here's how you enter. Go to foulterritory.chat, play trivia, crush it, and you might win. We are picking one winner from the top 10 scores at random. So it's not just get the top. Somebody at random from the top 10 scores. Deadline is July 20th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So that is foulterritory.chat. I love trivia. All right. Well, aside from the All-Star game, and which, by the way, I thought it was a great thing for Major League Baseball. I thought the Hank Aaron, honoring Hank Aaron element that they did was, I can only imagine what it was like seeing it in person, but like on TV, it looked great. Nice to see Mrs. Aaron there as well, and the Braves legends throwing out the first pitch, and all that stuff. I thought home run derby was a lot of fun. Even the swing off. Do you have a swing off take, Cody? This might be the time.
I am normally all for progressive innovations in the game, things to make the game better, more entertaining, faster. All about that. Love the pitch clock. I have no qualms with the new extra innings rule. Every now and then, a player, if a team loses one, ground ball to the right side, sack fly. Players be like, "We're not even playing real baseball. What is this?" And I think the swing off was great for the All-Star game. No, we don't need extra innings in the All-Star game. I do not think this should become a thing in the regular season. Or God, can you imagine the World Series being determined on a swing off? Like, I don't know, maybe that'd be fun to watch, but from just a competitive perspective, this is not the game. This is not what teams do. Especially, maybe no better example than a team like the Tigers, which leans into chaos and pinch hitting and small margins, and then all of a sudden it's all right, like, you're going to pick Torque, Riley, and somebody else to go up there and try to hit you a few home runs. I don't even know who the third. I guess
Javi.
Terry Carpenter, if he's healthy. Would Javi be great or terrible at that? I honestly have no idea.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. No, I am currently really anti this ever becoming a thing to determine games in the regular season. I think it's just too different from the actual sport.
I'm going to zag a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit more progressive than you on this, Cody. I think in the regular season, because we can all acknowledge it's silly, right? We can all acknowledge it's silly. Even if you like it, it's still silly. I think position players pitching and throwing 45-mile-an-hour, ball lollipops into the batter's box is also silly. So I go from the frame of silliness is already in the game. Okay. I think that if you play 10 innings and you can do the extra runner, the ghost runner, whatever, for the 10th inning, and have that be like the last real baseball inning that you play, and then you do swing off. So basically, no game is played more than 10 in the regular season. No game is played more than 10 innings of actual baseball, and then after that, you do swing off because arms, fatigue, travel, like all these other things that we've implemented changes for anyway. I think actually that would be okay. I would be okay with that because it's not just extra innings. It's the, 11th inning on, basically. I think it would be okay. Because at that point, we're really stretching these guys then.
I could get tucked into that. I'd want to see it play the 10th and 11th, right? Just because, or I think if you do that, then you have to eliminate the automatic runner in the 10th because it's too easy for both teams to score one run and then you're still. Although the data actually says like that's not happening a lot, it just feels easy. I guess maybe I could get on board with that. I could also get on board. This might really offend some people. Just having ties. You play 162 of these. You have like 6 or 7 ties. It's okay.
I don't know if that's progressive or regressive, but it's unique and I like
both. The competitor and like if I were a player, I would be so pissed if I tied. Sometimes tying, I think, feels worse than losing. So it's like we didn't even get to hash this out. But you can have ties in other sports, including like the NFL, and you can't have a tie in a 162 game season.
I agree. Okay. I respect that take. All right. We're going to get to grading the various elements of the Tigers season thus far going into the quote unquote second half. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Summer. We almost forgot what it feels like to play just because. But even summer needs backup. A little partner in the good kind of chaos. Someone to bring the kung fu kicks. Hiya! To train some dragons. Fly, young dragon rider, fly. The kind of fun that keeps the days going. That turns living rooms into playgrounds. And reminds us what our bodies and our hearts were made for. Play that moves you.
All All right, coming back here, Cody, I actually think this is a fun exercise to do because, the headline is the 6 All-Stars. The headline is best record in baseball, lead the division by 10 plus. I mean, that was, every time a Tiger came to the plate or went to the mound, like that, that was like the talking point. So this kind of helps kind of frame a little bit like how we got here while also like, acknowledging the positive. And even though we just had a couple negative podcasts because of how they went into the All-Star break, it kind of contextualizes things a little bit. So first off, something I think is kind of easy. AJ Hinch, his coaching staff, like if we were to grade them, I don't know, like you just have to be an A, right? Doesn't it have to be an A for AJ Hinch and company? Because again, nearly 60 wins, dominating the division to this point, and it's not like injury luck has been like they've had quote unquote injury luck that's gone in their favor with some guys that, you wouldn't be surprised if they missed time. But at the same time, Jackson Jobe, Kerry Carpenter, like Glaber, I know it wasn't that long, but Glaber got hurt there for a little bit. Jake Rogers at the time we thought could have been I don't want to say devastating, but a pretty significant injury. And then Dingler emerges. It's just like there hasn't been like this uncanny health streak for the Tigers this year to get them on the verge of 60 wins. And the fact that they've been able to navigate a lot of this stuff with this record and winning in a variety of ways, which we'll, obviously talk about, moving forward. I just feel like I don't really believe in A pluses because A plus, like that just seems like where you go from there, but it's got to be an A, like, I don't know if it like A minus seems like too harsh. So I just kind of put like a flat A.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more subjective most of the time than grading coaching because you're really looking at how players do and trying to draw some correlation to how coaches impact that. But got the best record in baseball. I think the coaching staff gets an A. AJ Hinch has continued to manage with a creative style, throwing out different lineups every day, it seems like, and it continues to work. You have an offense that is overachieving. We'll talk about that more here in just a second, but it seems like a good look for the hitting coaches. Continue to rank well in terms of percentages of fly balls converted to outs. So that looks good on George Lombard and those guys working with the outfielders. Going first to third, baby. Taking extra bases, the Joey Cora special. Man, sometimes it's frustrating when a guy gets thrown out, but the more and more I see, the more it's like, Joey Cora is a dog in the third base box. He's an asset to this team. The guys who get the most love, Chris Fetter, Robin Lund, we're not talking about them as much. The bullpen is struggling. They've still kind of got enough out of some guys to help weather some of the injuries. The rotation's been pretty stable despite like a couple injuries, despite some ups and downs from Jack Flaherty. Keep in mind, guys, they've gotten a little more out of too already. The Chase Lees of the world, the improvements Dylan Smith made just to make his major league debut. Wouldn't be surprised if there's more internal improvements to come from the pitching staff in the second half. Coaches get an A from me.
All right. And another thing too, like that I think kind of clouds everything around this is that like if you were to define the Tigers' identity, it's not going to be their home run hitting. It's not going to be their stolen bases. It's really not certainly not their bullpen and, not really starting pitching. It's just like everything, right? It's a culmination of everything. And what is that reflective of? It's reflective of coaching. You know what I mean? Like, so like that part, I think kind of puts it over the top in terms of like, is this, you said it's, players doing the job, and AJ is always one to be quick to say that, it's like, it's a player's game. The players got to be able to do it. But at the same time, man, they're bought in and players don't just buy in for the sake of buying it. It's a reflection of AJ and his staff and all that stuff. So I think that's a good grade there. Offense is interesting. In the American League, Cody, the Tigers are third in OPS. See where they are in home runs. They are fifth in home runs. What stat do you like? You like doubles? They are actually behind in doubles, sixth in doubles. Uh-oh. Any concerns there? And third in RBI. So they are what you said about the various use of lineups, and then we mentioned a couple injuries there. they are getting high level production in key areas without a Aaron Judge, without a Juan Soto, with respect to Riley Green and stuff, of course. But like, I do believe that they are a little bit prone to valleys and cold streaks. I mean, when your most noteworthy hitter, Riley Green, is also like the strikeout king, I think that's a kind of fair statement there. I'm going B plus because the numbers are good enough that like you can't be overly like certainly not Tiger's Twitter level concerned. But at the same time, there are real holes. There are guys that you're needing to step up, and that's going to be a theme for the second half. Is like, what are you going to get out of Parker Meadows? Is what's Carey Carpenter's hamstring? Like, there's definitely room for improvement. They've weathered some cold streaks. However, like it doesn't feel right giving an A to this team. In my opinion, B plus.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I kind of agree in that the actual production, the numbers are a little better than it feels, but maybe that is a sign that we should stop feeling that way. I don't know. I'm going to give the Tigers lineup an A because they rank 6th in baseball in run scoring. No one thought that coming into this season. The goal for me, I think, was to have an above league average offense. They could rank somewhere between 10 to 15 in run scoring and continue to have dominant pitching. I thought that was going to be the formula for the Tigers to get back to the playoffs. Well, they're 6th in runs scored. We don't think of them as a home run hitting lineup, but they're 8th in homers. That's pretty legit. And like you said, pretty much any other metric you want, they're doing pretty well in. The lineup feels like there's some holes. I don't know. Look at the bottom half of this order. It's become a quote unquote long lineup when your 9-hole hitter started the All-Star game. Look at what Dylan Dingler, although he has cooled off, that hasn't been talked about a ton yet. Look at what he has provided. Zach McKinstry's the top half of the order hitter now. And when we're talking about guys like Meadows and Vierling, like I think those are two guys who are going to play really high level baseball at some point in the second half. Even though I'm a little concerned, I wonder, like in the postseason, are the Tigers gonna just not be able to produce runs at the clip it's required? You look at what they have actually done on the field, and I have to give it an A.
I like that. At a certain time, your preconceived notions have to be eliminated, right? I think that's something that we've fought. And I actually do think Tigers fans, media, like the local media, have done a good job of transitioning from what we thought we knew to what we're seeing. But it still exists. I mean, it still exists. So you still have to kind of catch yourself every now and then. But we don't talk about it a lot because they don't do it, but you talked about Cora being like an asset, and he is. That's one of the funniest conundrums about this team is that they are aggressive on the base paths with the ball in play. When the ball's not in play, from the bat, they are the least aggressive team in baseball. They have the least amount of stolen bases in the American League, 40, which how much does McKinstry have? 15?
Like 16? I don't think it's coincidence they've started being a little more aggressive the last couple series. Obviously that's based on who's pitching, who's catching, times the home plate. But yeah, I mean, I've asked AJ Hinch about this. He said, look, those are two separate things. Base running aggressiveness and stolen base aggressiveness are two completely different things. How often is it worth giving up an out trying to steal second base? And the Tigers have their reasoning. They don't feel it's that valuable. Overall team speed, it's a reflection of that too. They don't have that many burners on the base paths, which kind of makes it even more impressive how often they go first to third or, second to home, first to home. I'd like to see him steal a little more bases just because the theory that's out there most of the time is that you have to steal at a rate above 75%. I don't have their success rate in front of me right now, but I'm pretty sure they're still well above that, which to me says you could probably go a little bit more. But I agree with AJ. It's a separate thing.
Yeah, it means that they're like I would be curious if they're gonna continue that kind of like just a little bit more aggressiveness, kind of toe the line a little bit more, because I I
The
think there
Tigers
is,
have an 82% stolen base success rate, which is the third best in baseball.
yeah, which is not sustainable if you're
You
actually
want
trying
to
to.
right. You
Right.
want to keep that high, but that also says, I don't know, if you go from 82 to 78, but you're getting second base more often, that's probably worth it. And I think if you did a deeper study, it would confirm that.
I would also think that in a playoff series, like you want that as a play essentially in your pocket, like not just McKinstry. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you want to be able to, Meadows is on, Bierling's on, and this is a situation, catcher, pitcher, whatever, score. Like this is a situation where it might not be a bad idea, but I would like to see it happen a little bit, or even a little bit more, just so that that's also part of the scouting report. You know what I mean? So just something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. All right, we're going to transition to pitching grades. It's kind of an interesting one, the more I thought about it. But first, a word from our sponsors.
The way to buy, sell, or trade your cards is Arena Club. It is the top marketplace in the biz to get that done. And Kratz, we love the slab pack situation because rolling through a ton of cards, physically opening them, finding all kinds of commons that end up folded or in the garbage is old news. Why not get a slab pack and get a chance at a card worth thousands of dollars?
I was a common card. It's okay if you don't get me in your slab pack, because you put as little as $25 into for a slab pack and you could pull out something that's worth thousands of dollars. And it's a keepsake that you get to like, wait, you know what? It might be worth this much today, but I get to watch the value grow.
And right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and use the code FOUL. That's 20% off your first card purchase or slab pack at arenaclub.com/foul, code FOUL.
All right, coming back here, Cody. I wanted to actually start with bullpen. I feel like, even though not start with starter, but I wanted to start with bullpen because this is the one area we talked about it a lot past couple episodes that you are most concerned, you the general Tigers observer are most concerned with, but also should have a decent amount of confidence in their ability to figure it out. So trying to kind of center that idea, I think, is probably the number one source of Tigers discourse. And there are a lot of ideas out there, and some of them are good and some of them are bad, but I think they're all kind of coming from the same place. But here's just one element to kind of visualize it. They are 11th in the American League in ERA, the bullpen, or relievers, if you want to be more specific. Now, some of these numbers are going to be a little bit skewed because of openers and things like that. So you can keep that in mind. But at the same time, that's not good. And then what's the number one concern for the bullpen? Not getting enough. They don't have a swing and miss guy really, or need some more swing and miss. Well, they are 13th in strikeouts in the American League. So those are obviously bottom tier numbers. And I think we've always kind of said, well, they're a little top heavy. Have some guys you feel okay about, been some good stories, even though there's a little bit of regression to the mean, and like Chase Lee's of the world. But at the same time, like Vest, you still a guy you believe in. I think Canley is still a person that is highly useful. Maybe has probably been overextended a little bit. I talked about that on the last episode. I think I'm going C+ here. Like if this was done 2 weeks ago, it probably would. It could have been as high as a B+, maybe even. I don't think I was going to get an A because of the depth, but like I think we've been subject to all the concerns that were out there the past couple of weeks, and infrastructure pushes this to a C plus. I think if there wasn't Federer and company and Hinch and even Harris and his staff, I think I might go lower. But like, there's a confidence level that in some way this is going to get figured out. We talked about that on our last episode. So I'm going C plus for bullpen.
Yeah, I'd go a little lower. I think I'll go a hard C. It's been pretty bad, the Tigers, in the span of the broader view of Major League Baseball. I don't really like to look at stuff by league anymore because there's a balanced schedule. You play everyone.
But it's still your most direct peers, so that's why I do it, because you're not competing with the Pirates for playoff positioning. So that's why I do it. But you're right; it is balanced. That you're right.
Yeah. So they're 21st in bullpen ERA, 4.13. Since June 1st, as I've pointed out, their bullpen ERA is over 5. It's been one of the very worst in the league. Overall whiff rate among relievers, dead last, 30th. That stuff's that's not going to play. That's not going to get you to the World Series. In a way, when you look at that, it's kind of amazing the Tigers have the best record in baseball because they have one of the 9 or 10 worst bullpens in baseball. I think it helps that they have been good at protecting leads, which speaks to Vest, Canely. They haven't blown a lot of leads, but in tight games or you're trailing by 1 or 2 in the middle innings, doesn't seem like this bullpen has been built to succeed in that. We've seen guys pitching bridge rolls really well, getting the Tigers from the 6th to the 8th. And they haven't quite, Chase Lee's done that a little bit, but they haven't quite had that guy, certainly not multiple guys. We are seeing Tyler Holton pitch a little bit better recently. I think that's huge. But the lack of swing and miss is still a big concern. You know, one of the great mysteries of what the Tigers did last season, they had the best ERA in baseball over August and September. They also had by far the lowest batting average in balls in play from August to September. And so my question, something I thought a lot about this offseason and into spring training, like, were they just getting quote unquote lucky for 2 consecutive months? And then you start looking deeper and you start looking at stuff plus models. And it's like, well, I really, and you talk to some people, and I think they had scientifically suppressed BABIP a little bit just by throwing nasty sinkers and stuff like that. It's a little bit of an oversimplification. But then you look at this season and it hasn't carried over. Their BABIP is pretty league average. It's 286, 15th in the league, actually still a little bit below kind of a conventional league average, which is 290 to 300. But that's all to say they're not holding opponents to a 240 BABIP anymore. Goes back to that you're going to have more swing and miss to survive in this league, especially in smaller samples like the postseason.
Yeah, and the smaller sample thing is something that, you know, keeps, I don't want to say keeps me up at night, but if I have free range thought, that kind of goes over there. And again, it starts out real small sample size as we saw last year. All right, moving on to starting pitching. Tigers figured this was a influx. And I'm sorry to be really recappy. Everybody like knows this or whatever, but like, you know, this was like, you got more than what you know how to do with. And if there was ever an example of, it's going to get figured out on itself, to paraphrase Joe Torre, this would be it. Obviously you have Scooble like that raises your floor quite a bit. Mize being an all-star, and yes, he gave up the home run, but it was also nice to see him get a K. All right, like that was really cool as well. Mize being an all-star, you know, Joe out for the year, out for, you know, however long that's going to be. Obviously, we don't know, but there were flashes of Joe. You know what I mean? Flaherty was a guy that you brought in, and he's been, I would say, ascending a little bit. His past several starts. There have been some misses. Maeda in general, I know it's kind of both, but we have to mention him. Maeda in general was obviously a miss. And we, you know, Dietrich, it was fun while it lasted. You know what I mean? Montero with the plan with him is still, you know, kind of doing both guys here. But, you know, guys that at least kind of profile as starting pitchers. It's you know, Reese Olson hasn't really been allowed to get going. We'll see. He's going to kick off the second half of the season down in Texas. There's a lot more room to grow with this squad. but they also don't have the arsenal that we thought they were going to have coming into the year with injuries and play and such. I kind of think I'm going B+ here. I'm going B+ because my expectations were high and they've been quite good. And the Mize thing is awesome, but the depth has been tested in a way that it's hard for me to go with an A. But if you're interested in some counting numbers, they're third in opponent average. They are, and this is American League, obviously, fourth in strikeouts and in ERA. They are, I believe it's third. Double checking. Yes, they are third. They like the hitting. There's a lot. You just look at the numbers and it's like they kind of tell the story. But if you're thinking about how you feel and then you're projecting that a little bit, it can be a little bit tougher. So I'm going B+, which is weird for a staff that has the Cy Young favorite and another All-Star. But I wanted to see more from more guys I'm confident in to give an A.
Yeah, I think this is easily the hardest one to grade because they have the 6th best rotation ERA in baseball. They have the Cy Young favorite. They had an All-Star. But that word top heavy kind of comes back around. It'd be really nice if you still had Jackson Jobe ascending. Unfortunately, he's on the shelf. Zach Flaherty, he's pitched a lot better lately, but he's been up and down. Second half last season gives me some worry and like just what does Jack Flaherty look like in September. Montero, Reese Olson has a 2.95 ERA now, but he's only made 11 starts. I think this all adds up to why I'm going to give it a B. The raw performance, good, right? 3.343 rotation ERA. The reason I'm going a B, though, let's look at the innings logged by Tigers starters. Ranks 23rd in the league. Now, that, too, is a little bit skewed based on openers. If a guy goes 1 inning, that goes down as 1 inning for the starter.
Right.
K or Montero's 4 innings or whatever are not accounted for in this. But that also speaks to that's somewhat by design. That's somewhat how the Tigers have designed things. This also speaks to you've had a decent amount of short starts other than Skubal. How many times have other guys really gotten you deep into games? That's still, I think, an important measure of the strength of a rotation. And right now, the Tigers don't have a rotation that is doing that. Even you look at their overall innings, how much of that is skewed by the outlier that is Tarek Skubal. He's thrown 121 innings. Only one other player has reached 100. That's Jack Flaherty. You're just not outside Skubal. You don't have horses carrying you deep into games. You're trying to either be creative with opener strategies or get through 5, but then you're turning over things to a bullpen that has not been that good, a bullpen that probably has not been that good in part because it's been used a lot because a combination of injuries and other factors, guys not throwing that well. Like all of this is related. So the big thing that comes up is the lack of innings you were getting from your starters. That's why I'm giving it a B, despite good raw numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good way to put it, if you're a gambling man, you can say bet on. If you're not a gambling man, you can say stake your reputation on. Like besides Skubal, and you gotta have a game of something. Like who are you staking your reputation on? There's arguments to be made for several, but there's no like slam dunk case there. And I think that's kind of like the way to put it with respect to Skubal, who, by the way, we're going to start to get a whole lot of, I don't want to say campaigning, but there's going to be like, shouldn't Hunter Brown be the Cy Young favorite? Garrett Crochet. And by the way, these guys all have had amazing seasons and have great claims, but that's going to start to come a little bit.
Well, Scribble's going to have to continue pitching at a really high level, but he leads the league in strikeouts walk ratio, strikeouts per 9, walks per 9, whip, FIP, like WAR. These other guys are just like our ERA is a tick lower.
I mean, it's gonna be a thing. All right, front office, Cody. Just to rehash some of the moves that the Tigers have made. They brought in Alex Cobb. We're not going to grade each one, but I would say that's probably not an A. Gleyber Torres, Jahmai Jones, Tomas Nido, John Brebbia, Tommy Canley, Jack Flaherty. These are some high-end contributors to a team, and then some, nice little spot contributors, and then somebody who, for reasons that aren't necessarily their fault, have contributed nothing. So, so those are, and then obviously there's a lot of moves on the margin. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but this is sort of similar to coaching, in my opinion, where it's like, how harsh can you be when this is a team that's been constructed over the course of a couple of years that has put themselves in position to be heavily division favorites, favorites to have the best record in the American League, like second or third, World Series odds at midseason. Like, how harsh can you be? I'm going sort of similar. I'm going A- just to have like, there's, nobody's batting 1,000 doing this, so same thing with the A+, but at the same time, you got the best record in baseball. You've been doing this a couple of years. The farm system, you know what? I'm going to bump it up to an A. I'm going to include the farm system in there as well as, some of the highlights, Clark, Racino, McGonigal, number one guy in Baseball America's prospect list. So like, I'm going to bump it up to an A in the moment here, but you can't be an A+ when we just talked about the lack of depth in starting pitching and the guy you paid $15 million has yet to log an inning. So,
yeah. This is a hard one too, because again, we're talking about the team with the best record in baseball. But then you go through like, well, what did the front office do to improve the major league product this year? And it's like, well, Gleyber and Canley have been very good, and Cobb has been a huge miss. John Brebbia is no longer on your team. The strength of this front office has been and continues to be the smaller things. The few games you got out of Tomas Nido, the production you've gotten from Jahmai Jones. Let's go to the bullpen. Chase Lee, great example. That was last year's trade deadline. I don't know, the open-mindedness to bring in a guy like Dietrich Inns, who won you one game at the major league level. I don't know, identifying a guy like Bailey Horn, who's only thrown 2 innings, but you've had some success. Like these little things that probably add up to 3 or 4 wins over the course of the first half. But then I look and it's like, well, we've talked about this bullpen and it's been taxed and this and that. Scott Harris, known for the waiver wire, has only brought in one guy, and it's Carlos Hernandez, and he has been terrible. So it's like, I think there's a case they should have made some sort of addition earlier over the past month to help fortify this pin a little bit. If I'm grading on strictly how has this front office impacted the major league roster this season, I think I'd have to say more like a B, maybe B+ when you really think of how good Gleyber Torres has been. What a great signing. Canley, I know he struggled recently, but man, imagine this bullpen without Tommy Canley.
Yeah.
Then you're like, well, they're the best team in the baseball. They have maybe the best farm system in baseball. You consider the whole conglomerate of the past couple years. I think I'd have to go A-. So it's kind of two different rubrics there for
Does the front office, I don't think I've ever phrased it to you like this. Does the front office get credit for Torque having 22 or whatever home runs at the All-Star break? The old motivator, you force Torque to finally do it.
Maybe just in the messaging to him too. If I had to guess without sitting in on every meeting, that probably goes more coaching staff. The coaches, I'm sure, had more daily dialogue with him. The hitting coaches, Michael Berdar, I know, put in a ton of work with Torque directly in Arizona this offseason. Keep Beauregard. We didn't talk about that when grading the coaches. They get a lot of credit, I think, for the resurgence of Spencer Torkelson and Javi Baez and all those guys.
Zach McKinstry, and then we're gonna wrap up here. But if you were to do a most improved award, there's a lot of candidates.
That's a tough one
on this team.
I want to give it to Torque, but I think you have to give it to Javi Baez because he was the worst qualifying hitter in baseball, and now he's pretty good.
Not only that, but the steady improvement over 2 years. Well, it's not strict to this season of Colt Keith is something that is a feather in their cap as well. So, yeah, hopefully some of that triculates over to the Parker Meadows of the world. And again, we're going to talk next week about some of the big storylines that we're looking for in the second half of the season in a way that's going to define this Tigers team. But anything positive we said, anything negative we said over the past 40 minutes or so, it was a lot of fun to watch this team. It's a lot of fun to talk about this team. It's a lot of fun to see these guys grow or just have these meteoric rises right before our eyes. And we appreciate all you guys for following us along at Cody Stavenhagen, at Kieran_Steckley, pod pages at Tiger Territory _ YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You guys know what to do. We appreciate all of you. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.